All right, guys, welcome back. We got another episode of Consumed, and on this one, we're going to tackle GNC's 2018 Q2 earnings that were reported this morning. So, GNC had about $618 million in this quarter of revenue. That was actually down about 5% year over year. And with GNC lately, it's always been kind of the tale of two cities. So I'll break this down with domestic and international sales. So domestically, and that accounts for about 84% of their business, they saw same-store comparable sales for corporate-owned stores just down about a fraction of percentage, so not too bad. If you take that to the franchise level, those were down actually 4%. Looks like the GNC finance team decided to take that a little bit farther to help people understand that, if you were to take out some of the new loyalty program, I believe the corporate stores would have actually seen about a 1.5% increase in same-store comparable sales. And I believe there was some major buy one, get one 50% off or some similar type of promotion that was pretty large, that had a pretty large impact to GNC's business this time. I'll talk a little bit more about loyalty programs later on in this video. So the CEO, Ken Martindale, wanted to kind of discuss also a little bit of the success they've had with their online sales. I believe year over year they had almost about a 3% gain. I believe right now that's at a basis of about 40-something odd million dollars each quarter. So, definitely still a small percentage of their business. But if you look at just the overall picture of online sales to brick and mortar sales, they are almost kind of in line with a lot of people's mix of brick and mortar sales. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that number right now. But they also kind of discussed a little bit about the impact, the Lucky Vitamin sale that they had, about 9 months ago. They thought they saw a loss in revenue of about $22 million from that. So offset that growth of online from their sale of the online retailer Lucky Vitamin. So kind of jumping into the other side, and probably the more positive side of GNC in terms of their story right now is their international growth. So year over year, they saw about an 11% gain, and that's been pretty consistent over the last few quarters. They're about 16% of the business right now. They highlighted kind of a few things, and one was really highlighting China and specifically China's e-commerce growth in terms of the sales. The unfortunate thing about that is that they kind of also talked about the compressed margins that go along with the e-commerce market in China. So they're not going to see a humongous amount of profitability from that growth. But I think anybody that understands kind of globalization and what's going on right now, I think China e-commerce right now is a great place to really put some extra effort into to get that revenue number kind of back up there. So talking about China, they're still trying to close that Harbin Pharmaceutical transaction right now. I believe there's probably some things probably held up with some of the things that are going on with trade talks and such things. I'm not exactly sure where it's along in the process. I know that in terms of proxy-wise, they did get enough of votes to vote that positive. So, I'm sure that's probably going to close sometime in the next year or so. And overall, those two pictures are quite, starkly different, but been pretty consistent over the last few quarters. The GNC name overall, I think, has still a lot of power internationally. So, if I was GNC, I would definitely be focusing a lot of my efforts on international, especially because I believe there's a lot of runway left in a lot of the markets, specifically in Asia. So, we'll kind of take a look at that, see what kind of happens going forward. Touch small amount on just kind of store counts, just because I think last video that I did with Price Plow, I'll make sure I link that one below for you guys. They made a big kind of announcement last quarter about closing 200 stores. And I'm not sure how far they are along in that process, but GNC does break out their store counts each quarter. And just from a year-over-year perspective, domestically, I believe they're down about 260 stores. That's at a basis of about 6,800 stores. So still a significant decrease. And then on the international side, on a basis of about 2,000 stores, they actually saw a slight increase of about 60 stores. So overall, I think there was about a change of about 200 stores year over year. And the press release on the last one was 200 stores. So I don't know if that accounts for ones they've already kind of closed year over year, or if they have another 200 that they're going to plan on kind of closing. But just to kind of touch on a little bit of the other kind of trends that are going on in the business. If you guys have seen any of my prior kind of writings on GNC, I always kind of break these things out in several sections. It's always kind of domestic, international, private label, and then kind of the mixture of other things that they have kind of going on. So just to kind of touch on private labels, since that is such a big part of their business, that's grown actually year over year to 50% actually of their revenue. So it's a massive part of their revenue, and they only see that kind of increasing over the next few years. They spoke highly about their Slivance product and a few other private labels that they are refreshing or just adding some products to the mix. And I believe that they'll continue to add products as margins kind of compress with branded products. So retailing in general, brick and mortar right now, big push is private label. So I don't see why GNC, especially since that's a huge core competency for them, why they wouldn't increase that over time. So moving from private label to kind of the other parts of their business, I touched a little bit on the loyalty program. They've seen a great growth in that, moving from the old kind of gold card to this new loyalty program. I think one of obviously the biggest shifts that it is free now, so signing up is a lot easier. And I think they mentioned that it's up about 14% quarter over quarter, so that's significant. I think at a base of almost 15 million people that are part of that gold or loyalty program now. And they also actually have a kind of a pro access or paid program that gives you some other benefits. And they're seeing about 1 million people joining that right now. And I think that's kind of a big push to them in the future. A lot of what's kind of going on right now with ecosystems and kind of creating loyalty programs to, create bigger switching costs. That's kind of a big push for everybody. That's the premise of kind of Amazon Prime or your Apple ecosystem and a lot of these other things. And not to say that GNC is kind of getting on any level to that, but they could hypothetically get a very similar ecosystem if they were going to invest in a lot of kind of value-added things, kind of later on. So going through the quarterly report, I was definitely kind of looking to see if there was any kind of weird footnotes or anything like that. It's always, if you have an accounting degree like myself, it's one of those things that you were taught early on. The juiciest pieces are always in the footnotes. So I definitely always take a look at that and try to see what the heck's going on. And the only thing that I kind of saw in there was that they made a $10 million kind of like reward or some type of like bonus compensation, I think on the stock side, to senior executives and what they're considering key people that are pushing strategic efforts forward. So they said this is kind of retention based. So I'm not sure if they're struggling to keep employees and they want to keep the great ones, or if this is just something that they believe is useful in the market right now with just kind of low unemployment and making sure that the team stays consistent through the strategic kind of initiatives they have going on. So they have that vesting over the next 2 years and 4 quarters. I think there's also maybe a trigger clause in there with the Harbin pharmaceutical thing. So that vesting period actually changes a little bit. So, like I said, I don't know if that's something to be alarmed about or if that's just kind of what's going on with the tightened labor markets right now, but it was something that I kind of noticed there. So, overall, I don't think this is a terrible quarter by GNC standards. I think if we take a step back And though they kind of beat on the top and the bottom line in terms of what analysts were expecting, revenue is still down. They're still trying to figure out where their place is in the retail kind of stratosphere of specialty retailers competing against convenience retailers like a Walmart or an Amazon. So away from a little bit of the kind of the numbers and just opinion wise, I mean, I definitely think that GNC is working through their strategic plan right now. Things don't get changed that fast, especially when you're moving a $2.5 billion company that's kind of really debt leveraged right now, and you kind of don't have a lot of moves you can make until that Harbin Pharmaceutical transaction is completed. So we'll kind of see where they go with this. I know they're changing a little bit of their merchandising right now. Adding both, some more aggressive private label and branded products and trying to refresh just the GNC name right now. I think this past quarter they also started working with a new creative agency. I don't know too much about the creative agency they're working with, but I hope they, are a young, kind of like hungry creative agency that's really focused on, digital initiatives and really transforming the business to be well positioned in the retail, the competitive retail market that's going on right now. More of the same is just not going to work for GNC anymore. If you're interested in following more about this, make sure you guys are following me on LinkedIn. That's where I kind of post a lot about these different topics, specifically things that are functional food, beverage, and nutritional supplement CPG. So close this video here, open up the discussion to the comments. So make sure if you guys do have comments on this or just kind of GNC's business overall, make sure you guys comment below. And if you guys did like this content, make sure you guys give me a thumbs up. It helps me understand what you guys like, what you guys don't like. And if you guys haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you guys do that. Until then, see you guys on the next one.